Okay, I'll take a lull in the room as a sign that we're ready to go. I appreciate that, everybody. So thanks for being here today. Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to the NCCCO Foundation's 8th Annual Industry Forum. For those of you who don't know me, I'm TJ Cantwell. I'm the Executive Director of the Foundation, and I've had the pleasure of working with the Foundation Board since the summer of 2022 to help lead this organization and advance our mission through education, research, and workforce development. I will be your host and your MC for the next 2 hours. So although this meeting is only being presented to the people in this room, not virtually as it has done in the last couple years, due to the ongoing government budget issues, we will have a presentation over Zoom from Director Ketchum, so we'll all need to be a little bit flexible if there's any technical issues. We've had several folks we have several folks here helping us make this possible. So we've got some tech folks with the AV group that's been setting everything up. And we also have some CCO staff that's going to be helping with the Q&A portion. So I do have a few quick housekeeping announcements before we get started. If you are here in person, please sign in on one of the sign-in or the sign-in sheet that should be going around. I think I see it right there in the first chair row. So if you can just make sure to sign in before you leave, I'd appreciate that. We do want you to ask questions, so we will be doing our best to allow for questions at the end of each presentation. We will not be having a Q&A kind of panel since it's a smaller group this year at the very end. So if you've got a burning question that you really want to ask a presenter, please don't be shy. Once we're done, we'll have done their presentation. We'll have an opportunity for them to take your questions, and even Director Ketchum will be online, will be able to hear you if you use the microphone, which will be coming around when it gets to that section. A copy of the agenda should be at everybody's seat, and at the bottom there's a QR code to access the complete program, including the session descriptions and bios, if you didn't already receive it by email earlier this week. A reminder that after the forum you'll receive an evaluation by email. We ask that you please provide your feedback so we can make sure to improve the forum for the future. Finally, the forum is being recorded, as you can see from the cameras and all the other AV stuff. So you will receive, all registrants will receive a link to the recording within 2 weeks. So we're gonna do a little editing and things like that, but you'll be able to get a recording of all the presentations as well as the Q&A within a couple weeks. So again, thanks for being here, for your support and your attention. So now let's get started. It's my honor and pleasure to welcome back for the 5th year in a row our keynote speaker for the forum, the director of the OSHA Directorate of Construction, Scott Ketchum. He's truly a man that really needs no introduction, but I'm going to provide a real quick one anyway. Scott Ketchum has served as the director of OSHA's Directorate of Construction, DOC, since 2019, and was previously the DOC's deputy director. Ketchum also served as an OSHA Acting Deputy Regional Administrator, Area Director, Assistant Area Director, and Compliance Officer and Manager in regions across the U.S. He was Staff Industrial Hygienist with the U.S. Army Medical Activity for 5 years in Alaska and retired after 24 years of active and reserve service. Mr. Ketchum holds an MPA in Business Administration and Management from the University of Alaska and a BS from Texas A&M University. Despite his repeated requests, unfortunately, Director Ketchum was not able to be here in person due to the ongoing government budget issues restricting official travel. However, he has generously made himself available to us on Zoom to present and answer your questions. So please join me in welcoming Director Ketchum to speak.
Thank you, TJ. It's a pleasure to be here with you virtually this time. I would rather be there in person, I will say that, but I didn't have much say in the travel conditions that are present right now due to our continuing resolution that was recently passed, allowing us to continue operations. So hopefully in the future, I'll be there in person. I've come to these meetings in person, and except for the period during COVID, and I intend on doing so in the future. And first off, I wanted to say thank you to the NCCO, to the foundation for inviting me. TJ, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the work that we do together and the work that we're going to do in the future. And for your board of directors who are meeting there today, I give you my heartwarming thanks for the work you're doing to keep operators trained, certified, and safe out there. And to the operators out there who are tuning in on this, thank you for what you're doing to keep people safe. It really is important. I know you know that. So again, I wish I was there in person. So I'm looking forward to sharing some information with you today. And if we have time towards the end, I can share some anecdotes about my time in Alaska and some of the cranes that, and crane-like equipment moving activities that I saw up there when I was up there if we have time. So that said, I'm going to share my screen with my presentation, and I look forward to some interaction with you. And if time does allow, at the very end, we can add something else in, which I'd call a bonus. I try to change these up a little bit to keep them interesting. I like telling stories. I mean, I've been around OSHA now 25 years, been a safety and health professional 30 years. And quite frankly, and my 5 years active duty time in the Army, I've been around heavy equipment most of my life, either as a safety professional or driving it when I was in the Army. And I have an appreciation for what you do with heavy equipment moving around and moving loads around. I have a great appreciation for that. So without any further ado, I'm going to share my screen and move on with the presentation. So again, that's who I am. We always have a disclaimer on here. This is kind of what I'm going to talk about this time. Some of the projects that we're working on, regulatory activities, some of our inspection statistics. Obviously, you're a crane-centric organization. We're going to talk about cranes and construction and some of the data there. Our alliance update, trenching initiatives, and mental health and suicide prevention and outreach. That's pretty much what I'm going to cover in this presentation. So for those of you who have heard this before, I'm going to do some repetition here to a certain degree because the Directorate of Construction is primarily a safety-oriented organization. We do safety standards. We do crane standards. We do a lot of safety-related standards, but we do not do health-related standards. That's done by the Directorate of Standards and Guidance, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to work in the areas of health. So we are beginning an op-tempo to pick up capacity to be able to talk about health in construction. So specifically heat, silica, noise, and other chemical hazards that may be in the construction industry. And you're going to see a lot more from OSHA, Directorate of Construction, in regards to health and construction. We're going to make an emphasis out of that. So we're looking forward to hearing from stakeholders about those things as well as others. But for us, it is a big change. The Directorate of Construction, there's about 28 folks in my directorate here in the national office. And we did not have any industrial hygienists or health specialists. And we just recently, in the last year, hired 2 industrial hygienists to work on these things. So you're going to be hearing more from us about an emphasis on health issues in construction. On a operational side, we have a field operations manual for all of OSHA that covers everything except construction. We're going to fix that. There is going to be a construction inspection chapter in our field operations manual. And basically, just so I give you an idea about what our field operations manual does, it is basically the manual that describes how we operate and how we do certain types of inspections. And so the construction chapter will break down how we handle construction inspections and how we program them, how we handle unprogrammed, and how we focus on hazards, such as the Focus 4, which I'm going to talk about in a few moments. In addition, I wanted to let y'all know that we are moving on to a safety helmet OSHA-wide. So you will see across all of our programs in OSHA in the field and here in the national office, when we go on construction sites and when we go on sites that require head protection, we will be wearing safety helmets. I'm going to cover that in a moment. In addition, we're focusing on infrastructure safety. As you know, the IIJA, the Infrastructure Bill and Good Jobs Act, actually authorized in late 2021 over $800 billion in heavy civil construction across the nation. And those projects are currently under bid and underway. And OSHA is trying to reach out to these sites that we know, because when a federal grant is released, we know where those site locations are. We're trying to get OSHA consultation out there to make sure that safety is an important part of the Infrastructure Act and those jobs, that they're good jobs and they're safe jobs. In addition, we will be utilizing our resources to target some of those sites as well, and on state plans as well. And so you're going to see us out on these infrastructure sites, and we want them to be safe. And I think all of y'all would agree with me, a good job site is a safe job site. So our transition to safety helmets, basically, what we found was that our hard hats do provide some overhead protection from falling objects, some limited protection, but the safety helmets provide protection all around the full broad spectrum, from the sides and the back and the front. And it's not only from the top. And so we decided, we're seeing those a lot on construction sites. We ran a pilot across OSHA to try to determine which type of safety helmet we were going to go to. We chose one, and it's one of the four that's represented on there in the different colors. We chose one particular one because of user acceptance. It was relatively cool, lightweight, and provided outstanding use of being able to attach things to it that we might utilize in the future, like a visor for protection of the eyes. It also allowed for protection of earmuffs if we chose to utilize them as well. And something that we're beginning to look at as well as cameras along the side of the particular hard hat, where we can actually, with MOLLE equipment, we can actually attach cameras and stuff like that, so that we can do our jobs more electronically as we move along on a site. And so we're doing this as a best practice. We are not requiring work sites to transition to safety helmets, but we figured it was a good way to lead by example and provide a higher level of protection for our staff according to our safety and health management system, as well as lead by example on construction sites and other sites that OSHA visits nationwide. So you're going to see us here in this quarter, the first quarter of our fiscal year, rolling out safety hard helmets, and come January 1st, every area office and the national office of OSHA will all have safety helmets that we will be wearing out on the job sites. Again, I mentioned the Infrastructure Safety and Health webpage. If you haven't been on this site, it is Infrastructure Safety and Health on OSHA.gov, and it's a one-stop shop for all of our construction standards and directives and letters of interpretation. But in addition, compliance resources, compliance assistance resources, like for a smaller company, if you don't have a safety and health management system, there's a link on there how to start it up, and examples of how you can build a safer workplace for your workers. And so it's something that we think is very helpful. It's got a lot of resources on it. It also has all links to the Focus 4 hazards and safety training PowerPoints on it that are limited to the Focus 4, as well as for some other specific hazards. We're looking for external partners to partner with us and add things that they think would be important for infrastructure safety and health. So we're always looking for external partners that we can vet and put your information on there as well. We're looking for other resources as well to add to this. Our goal was to make it a one-stop shop for the construction industry and for people who are trying to get engaged in the IIJA grants that are going out across the government. Now, the other part that OSHA does in Directorate of Construction is we do construction regulations. And for the most part, all of our regulations that we do in DOC, the Directorate of Construction, are safety standards. Maybe someday in the future we'll do health standards as well, but we're not ready for that opportunity yet. But these are the current rules that we have out there. PPE in construction, otherwise known as PPE Fit, which was issued back in July. We have a standard that is looking for spring 2024 for comm towers, communication towers. That will be a notice of proposed rulemaking. We also have a specific crane amendment standard. It's set for spring of 2024. I'd like to see that earlier. It's a lot of things within subpart CC that we receive from stakeholders, making some fix to subpart CC that needs to be done. Right now, the agency's resources and priorities are really focused on heat and infectious disease. So I'm going to try to get that out in spring of 2024. We'll see if we can get that done. Welding in confined spaces, that is another one that's subject to available resources, which is making sure that when we say confined spaces across all of the construction standards, when we say confined spaces, we mean the definition of a confined space in subpart AA, which is construction confined spaces. Evidently, it was not clear to all stakeholders, so we're going through a rulemaking to codify whenever we use the term confined spaces, such as in subpart F on welding in confined spaces, we mean confined spaces defined by subpart AA. And then a couple other rules that aren't necessarily run by my directorate, which are powered industrial trucks. This one's important because it will actually incorporate by reference and update our 1969 powered industrial truck standard to also include rough terrain forklifts, which are used quite a bit in the construction industry trades and currently are not covered, only on training. So the actual standard of design will be covered first, and then operations will come later in a separate rulemaking. And then finally, the last two, worker walk-around representation. This is an opportunity to make sure that the workers have a representation on all sites across all industries. This isn't just construction. And it is an opportunity to make sure that they are representative and to clarify who that representative can be. That I posted, it was imminent. It was actually issued in early September. So we're looking forward to working on a final rule here very soon. In particular about that rule, comments are still open. The comment period is still open until mid-November. So if you're interested in that rulemaking, please go to the website for the worker walk-around representation. If you're interested on that, I can post a link to you so you can get to it in reg.gov. And then finally, an update to the lead standard. And this is a notice, advance notice of proposed rulemaking, which is talking about medical removal only. It's not changing anything in the standard other than the standards for when an employee is required to be removed, medically removed, because science has moved forward quite a bit since that standard came out some time ago. And we believe that it is less protective than the current standard. So we are looking at getting comments on that and moving forward with updating medical removal for lead. On from that, I mentioned national emphasis programs. We have a national emphasis program for falls that became effective May 1st. That was when the kickoff for the fall stand down occurred. And we're looking, the one thing that is unique about this is this NEP covers all industries, not just the construction industry trades. And that might sound a little cliche, but what I will say is in the construction industry, we've been focused on falls for quite some time, but they happen in all industries. So we, in the Directorate of Construction, started working on an emphasis program and made a national emphasis program to highlight our outreach as well as enforcement activities to help eliminate injuries and fatalities associated with falls. So that's in place right now. We are actively inspecting work sites, and you'll see on some of the inspection data that I have that we're doing quite a bit on falls on the enforcement side, but it's also bringing our outreach activities to bear on this as well. Again, I think I've talked about this with y'all before, but our HEAT National Emphasis Program, it's not run by the Directorate of Construction, but over 50% of the workplaces that are looked at by OSHA are in the construction industry sector. So, you know, because of working outdoors and with the excessive heat, especially this summer. Again, this is something that if you're not aware of, you should become more aware of. And we have targeted inspections through our construction targeting and unprogrammed inspections as well. Many of the inspections that we do, if we are looking at, say, for example, falls or trenching or other things, or doing our programmed inspections, we're looking at heat as well. So just, if you haven't read that, there are many things on our webpage that will help workers be safe in the hot environments. And this is the second year. We're going past the second year of this, into the second year of this NEP. So we're looking forward to more to be done in regards to ensuring workers are protected from heat hazards in the workplace. I mentioned PPE in construction. Basically, this standard includes the explicit requirement that PPE, the personal protective equipment, must fit workers properly. In the previous standard, it had the design criteria, but there was not a section in there that says it must fit properly. And so we amended the standard. We got out a proposed rule on that. The comment period just closed on that, but we are looking forward to moving forward with ensuring that the standard requires that PPE must fit properly. This will bring it in to be consistent with general industry and maritime industries as well. And in some ways, it addresses the concerns of women in construction to make sure that harnesses and other PPE is designed to fit the worker. For smaller people and larger people, this can be an issue, and it's something that the standard is looking at specifically addressing. The 60 days to submit comments, it closed on September 18th. And on the walk-around rule, again, this clarifies that a representative is authorized by the employees, may be an employee of the employer or a third party, and that they must clarify the relevant knowledge, skills, or experience of third parties who may be reasonably necessary in the proposed rule. And we gave some examples, if you're interested on this rule, a few examples of when third parties were helpful when authorized by employees for this purpose. And this standard is currently open for comments until mid-November, and it's being run by my shop. Okay, so the top violations specific to the construction industry for 2023, our fiscal year, which ended in September, are up here. You can see that falls are probably the leading indicator here for serious, willful, and repeat violations. If you look at ladders, scaffolding, fall protection training, aerial lifts, and fall protection systems down on the bottom, that is 6 different sections that are the highest cited. And I will say ladders, scaffolding, and aerial lifts are certainly, many of those citations are related to falls in the workplace. And so, you can see that quite a bit of that is focused on falls. It's certainly something, it's our highest cited standard, and a lot of these other standards are related to it. But you also have fall protection training, eye and face protection, head protection, and 1926-20, which is a requirement to have a safety and health program. You can see that that falls in there at number 7 this year in regards to having a requirement that you have a safety and health program in place. And we're finding quite a bit of that, as you can see, coming in at number 7. And so this is just kind of an overview of where we are in regards to things that OSHA is finding OSHA-wide across all 10 regions. Now, the breakdown on the Focus 4 hazards, which is also on our infrastructure webpage, you can see that over 60% of all the fatalities that occur nationwide occur in these 4 categories: falls, struck by, electrocutions, and caught in between. And particularly, if you look down at caught in between, that is, the majority of those fatalities are trenching fatalities. And I'm going to talk about trenching fatalities in a moment, but it's certainly something that has been something that OSHA is really focused on. Struck by equipment, objects or equipment, obviously is something that, we focus on in regards to moving equipment around or lifting or powered equipment on a work site. That accounts for number 2, and then obviously falls to a lower level with 378 is the leading cause of death of construction workers. But 2021, 900, almost 1,000 workers died related to these hazards that are listed here. Or 60% of those 986 were related to the Focus 4 hazards. So on crane injury data, I gave you this earlier in the year, I believe, when I presented to the IUOE and I think the SCNRA. This is data that OSHA has through BLS. And you can see that 2021, that was a COVID year, and there was not a whole lot of data that was released to us specific to cranes. We could not get that data. We're hopeful that 2022 and 2023 will provide us with more insight into crane injury data. But on the fatality data, they did release that, which I found to be interesting, and at least for general industry, but they did not for construction in 2021. And you can see through the COVID period of 2019 through 2021, construction, for some reason, was not part of the BLS CFOI data that we could sort out, but general industry was. I'm not sure why that was. We've worked with our partners in the BLS to try to figure that out. Hopefully we'll get that straightened out here in 2022. But you can see over the last 5 years, or 5-year period of 2017 through 2021, there were 84 fatalities. Of those, 16 were in the construction industry trades. So what are we finding? We didn't do it by particular numbers in this case, but again, the top crane violations are operator training, certification, and evaluations. That is the number one. That's the citation that we're seeing, quite frankly, quite a bit. Inspections of the crane, operation of the crane, keeping folks clear of the load, signal person qualifications, minimum approach distance, power line safety, equipment operations, assembly and disassembly. We've had several cases that went to litigation recently that resulted in good, what I would say are good decisions for OSHA on our assembly disassembly standard. And wire rope and hoisting personnel. The top 2 are tied for the most violations, which is inspections, operator training, certification, and evaluations. So one of the things in addition that we do here in the national office, besides doing standards and running emphasis programs, is we also do catastrophic investigations of incidents. And there's a couple on here that you can see. One of them was a massive bridge traversing over a major roadway that collapsed onto the members of the public, as well as some of the construction workers who were also under that down in Florida. That was one that we got engaged on. We've also had tower crane failures. I believe the one in the center, the left, on the bottom left, was down in Miami, and that was regards to a failure that occurred during a hurricane. We also do communication towers and also roadway and bridge failures as well. We do quite a bit of that type of activity here lately. I would say that just this year alone, my engineers have been engaged in 5 major incidents. And when I say a major incident, this is something that drew national attention and resulted, for the most part, most of these cases, in a loss of life. Not all of them were in construction. One in particular was in a grain elevator, where they were removing a chute off the top of a grain elevator. And I think TJ saw that when I presented that at the Alliance meeting here recently. But as they were removing the chute rigging failed, and the chute fell on a worker who fell almost 100 feet to his death when he was knocked off the top of the grain bin silo. But the grain chute slipped off of the bridle the way it was rigged, and it fell on the worker and knocked him off, and unfortunately resulted in a fatality. We also had a tower crane collapse here this fiscal year, where it was potential with the foundation. We had issues with that, or we're still investigating that, but it appears that there might have been foundation issues. We've had 2 hydraulic cranes fail where the boom broke off this year. 2 of them both of these resulted in fatalities and killed workers. They're currently open investigations. I can't say where. I'm not going to get into any details on that. And then finally, we had a mobile hydraulic. This one was not a fatality, thank goodness, but came very close. It was a demolition job on a work site where they were removing a conveyor belt on a work site where as they cut off a piece of the conveyor, it was rigged, and you could see, we have video of it, you could see that where it was rigged, the crane would not be able to support it, and the weight, when the final cut was made, I would say the northern side of the conveyor fell down with workers on top of it, and the southern side overweighted the crane and flipped it over where it was overweighted. Fortunately, in that case, no one was killed. Several people were injured, but again, significant activity, and it's something that we spent some time on. So we do a lot of catastrophic investigations in DOC. But I'm going to go through one that we did a couple years ago, and I don't think I shared this with y'all. I know I presented this at perhaps the American Bar Association or the AGC, but this was a fatality of a lattice boom crawler crane. I'm not going to say where it was or anything like that, and you will not see anyone, any manufacturer, and or we were very careful to make sure that we didn't include any locations or the name of the company or anything like that. But in this particular case, they were constructing a wastewater treatment facility, and 2 employees were standing on a scaffold. If you can see where I'm pointing to here, we're standing on, let me go back. We're standing on a scaffold right adjacent on the inside when the crane boom catastrophically failed and fell on them. They were only lifting wooden roof trusses, and they were lifting 4 half wooden roof trusses. I believe that it was about 50-foot spans. There was 4 of them. And when the boom fell, striking the employee, 2 employees on the scaffolding, 1 employee was killed and the other was injured. This was definitely a significant activity in regards to loss of life and potential, definitely issues with the boom on the crane. But more importantly, what we found on this was when we started looking at the crane, we found deficiencies within the wire rope that led to the catastrophic failure of this particular crane that allowed the boom to fall down. And quite frankly, this was the boom hoist wire rope was fatigued and it failed. And the exterior strands of the wire rope had fractured, causing the boom to catastrophically fall on the workers. Now, we also cited the particular operator and the technicians who also who were contractors associated to do this, didn't properly inspect the crane's boom hoist wire rope during the shift and monthly inspections according with OSHA standards. More importantly, it was the contractor failed to document its monthly inspections of the cranes and its wire ropes. And what we found was that metallurgical examination, that's a big word, study of the wire rope, the failed wire rope, indicated that the extent of breaks in the wire rope were due to fatigue failure was extensive and numerous over a long period of time and was easily noticed during a proper shift inspection, but it wasn't in this particular case. So we also found some rigging deficiencies when they're the third party inspecting the annual inspection. The contractor did not correct deficiencies raised by the third party inspector during the annual inspection a few months before the incident. So that involved the wire rope as well as rigging. And this led to 1 worker being killed on a work site involving a crane boom failure. as well as another employee being injured for life after being struck by the boom and the resultant injury caused from that. It was preventable. So moving on from that, I mean, I like to give examples to folks, but I also want to say OSHA is looking at partnering with people and working together to prevent these types of things. And I'm proud to say that we're getting real close to signing an alliance with NCCO and NCCCO Foundation regarding crane operations and sharing information back and forth between us. I'm really excited about this and looking forward to some data that we can work with to help encourage worker safety so that I don't have to report things like what I just did about that boom failure incident that resulted in 2 workers, one being killed and one being life-changing incident for the rest of his life. So we're looking for this partnership with NCCO and the foundation to encourage crane industry participation with OSHA and our events, have roundtable discussions and training opportunities for OSHA staff. This is a two-way street. When we go into an alliance, we'll work with alliance members and their partners. And it's a way for us to get to know each other, and not only get to know each other, but to show interoperability, how we can help each other reach the same goals. You know, and I know from all the years that I've been engaged with NCCO and other organizations like the IUOE and other crane promotion, SCNRA and other organizations that, you know, crane safety is important to you. And I know that, and we're looking forward to seeing good things out of this and getting more information out there regarding crane safety to the industry. So we're real excited about this. We're going to bring this into fruition here, hopefully. I want to say I wanted to have this done within the next 30 days. So we're looking forward to getting this to our Assistant Secretary, Doug Parker, and having a signing agreement here in the national office or virtually in the near future. If I have anything to say about it, it will be done sooner rather than later. This is really important to me. Now, moving on to other issues on trenching, you can see that OSHA has had an up and down, or the industry, I should say, has had an up and down fatality rate that has gone, you know, from something significant. What I didn't put on there was in 2016, there was 34 or 33 fatalities that started our real focus on trenching fatalities. In 2017, we made it our agency priority goal. And you can see we beat it down. We started it in 2017 with partners. When I say we, us and industry did what we could to lower this. I mean, I'd love to see that number down to 0. Nobody should die in a trench. Nobody should die on the job. And in particular, you know, I would say one fatality is one too many. But you can see in 2022, we had 39 fatalities. And so we put a lot of focus on trenching issues, especially unshored trenches. So if you see them out there, I know you're crane operators, but you know, and many times you might be putting something down into a hole, or you might be engaged in an operation that has trenching operations go on. They need to be shored, sloped, or protected from dangerous cave-ins. You can see in some of these pictures, those were cave-ins that happened and workers were in there. You know, never a good thing. And when these things happen, they kill very quickly. And so something that we take very seriously, and we're going to continue focusing on this along with our state plan partners as well. And engaged in this, I will say that we recently signed an alliance. And one of the partners on this is the IUOE. And we're really excited about this alliance in excavations, along with the AGC, the Laborers International Union, AEM, the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, the National Utility Contractors Association, and North American Excavation and Shoring Association. We're looking forward to good things to make sure that workers are safe, and we have excellent partners for safe trenching and excavations. I will say in regards to a part of this, a segue to it, and it is crane related as well. We worked with the IUOE in December and had our first of many, I hope. I look forward to this, trainings for COSHOs. We had over 50 compliance officers, compliance safety and health officers, that's what COSHO means, down in Crosby at the site, doing both tower cranes, mobile cranes, you know, and excavation training over a period of a week. And we were mighty appreciative of that. And it was excellent. So we're looking forward to doing more things like that we could do, you know, in the future. We certainly look forward to doing that. And I am really proud of the work we've done to partner with industry to help us with this. We are safety experts, but it's always helpful to have the experts of the industry in that particular industry help us along the way as well. So I'm gonna close up on a few things here that I think are really important. Suicide is something, suicide and mental health are important to OSHA. I know it's important to the construction industry. We have a new webpage called Workplace Stress. It's not a Directorate of Construction page, but basically what we will say is that, you know, in the construction industry trades, there is a significant rate, like up to 4 or 5 times higher than any other industry in regards to suicide, workers taking their lives by suicide. And it's something that we're not going to regulate, but what I would say it's the right thing to do. Put resources out there to help. We want to help. You know, this isn't something where OSHA is going to have a standard on, but we're doing the right thing by this. And we're going to do much more on helping our partners and helping the industry cope with this issue. And, you know, quite frankly, it's something that it's just the right thing to do. And we're going to be focusing more on mental health and suicide prevention in the workplace. One thing that we can do is to, you know, and I say this to people, and I don't mean it to be corny, but remember, we're all members of this society. You know, be human. It's okay to ask people, are you okay? You know, you can help someone by just asking some simple things. And these 5 different steps are important. Be aware, pay attention, reach out, take action if you need to take action, and learn more. And there's a lot of resources out there to help people get past tough times. And I like I said, it's just the right thing to do. And it's certainly something I didn't need to be pushed into to do the right thing on this as well as an agency. And it's really important to us. The last thing I'll talk about is some of our outreach events. Obviously, we do stand-down events for Struck By and Falls. They're huge over the year. We look forward to doing more of those. We also do things. AEM, the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, came down on the mall and had construction on the mall. It was pretty cool. They had a lot of equipment out there. You know, I didn't make it out there this year. My staff did. I unfortunately had an illness that I couldn't come out the day that we were supposed to be out there. I would have looked for some of our partners who are all out there. We also do trench safety stand downs. And again, year long, there's a safe and sound week. But I would say, aside from these stand downs, we should be looking out for trench safety and falls all the time. And we should be looking out for struck by incidents. And not to say that these events aren't great events on compliance assistance, but we should be looking for these things year long because they kill workers. And that's really what I wanted to stress. These weeks are great. We have a great time doing it. We get a lot of mileage out of it. We get a lot of information out to the public on that, but these things should last year round. And that said, I am done with my presentation. I'm subject to any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you very much, Director Ketchum. We really appreciate the presentation and, again, you making the ability for you to be present on Zoom. So we can see your face now, which is fantastic. We have a few minutes for questions. We have a couple people in the room, the CCO staff, that if you raise your hand, they will bring the mic to you. If you do not talk into the mic, then it will not be recorded and he won't be able to hear you either. So I do have a question already. that from somebody who wasn't able to make it, Director Ketchum, why we wait to see if there's any questions from the audience. So there was a question related to telehandlers, and it basically saying that there's, they've heard that potentially OSHA is changing the language in OSHA from existing language to remove the "or hook," quote unquote, from the statement. AGC of America is supposedly pushing hard to get that removed, but what is the likelihood it will be removed, and if so, what timeline is realistic? And they're referring to the 1926.1400 scope related to powered industrial trucks or forklifts.
Sure. I will say that I talked about the crane amendments rule that we are working on. There is a provision in there discussing that, but it would be inappropriate for me to discuss what direction we're going in regards to that. But when the crane amendment standard comes out, it will address the issue of the hook.
Great, thank you very much.
And there will be a period for noticing that. Obviously, we'll put the notice out, but there will be a comment period to hear on our proposal how the industry feels about that.
Okay, are there other questions from the room? If you have a question, please raise your hand, and Director Ketchum will be happy to answer them for you. I can't believe we don't have any questions. But there's one. I know there's questions out there. Don't be shy.
I just had one quick question. You said the top crane violations, one of them was inspections. Is that people not doing a monthly inspection, not doing their annual inspection? What does that entail? Can you elaborate on that?
Sure, it was both. That one fatality that I showed there was they had an annual inspection and they had a monthly inspection, both. The annual inspection didn't find the wire rope, but the monthly one did by an outside contractor, and they didn't fix it. It was both, actually.
Great question. Any other questions from the room? Oh, we do have one right up here. Mark?
Mark, Judy, question is, do you have more information in regard to crane-specific accidents and violations in the BLS, or where would we find those?
Yeah, actually, as I said, under injuries and fatalities, for some reason under BLS, we rely on BLS to get that information, but we also run what we call a severe injury report within OSHA. And that severe injury report would include struck-bys and typical failures of, like, for instance, the failure of that boom. And it would include that information in there. It's called our serious incident reports. I don't have that data on the tip of my fingers, but I aim to get the BLS data because the BLS data ensures that we're only looking at employers that are covered. The BLS data, we can sort out employers that are not covered by OSHA, because in some cases, self-proprietors, there are some people that fall outside the scope of OSHA standards. But our SIR is probably the best, because those are ones that we actually inspected and investigated in. And I can have that information ready for our next meeting. And it's something I can certainly share through our upcoming alliance with the NCCO and NCCCO Foundation. I'd be happy to do so.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That'd be fantastic. So that's all the time we have for questions. And again, I wanted to thank Director Ketchum for joining us, again, taking the time to be online despite the trouble with the travel. And we really look forward to working with you going forward, both in the Alliance and in general, to help improve the safety of the crane industry. And so I really appreciate you being here today. And another round of applause for Director Ketchum. Thank you.
You bet, folks. Glad to see you, or glad to talk with you. And next time, I will be in person.
Sounds great. Thank you.
You bet.
So now I'm happy to introduce our next presenter, Joel Oliva. Joel is the Senior Director of Innovation for CCO and an ICE certified credentialing professional. He has spent over 15 years with the organization working to improve safety in the construction and related industries by advocating and building ANAB ISO 17024 accredited certification programs that have been proven to save lives and benefit the industry. Joel has worked in nearly every role for CCO, from candidate support through exam development and program operations. Joel's current role as part of CCO's senior leadership team is dedicated to developing and implementing solutions to improve CCO's overall operations and its position in the market. He's held a variety of board and committee positions for industry associations and groups focused on education, safety, and workforce development for the construction industry. Joel's going to talk to us about the present, past, and future of CCO testing. Thank you very much for being here, Joel, and please take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. Well, thanks so much for being here today. Really happy to spend just a few minutes with you today talking a little bit about kind of what we're up to in the CCO testing world. Some of you were here this morning, so some of this might be a little bit repetitive, but nonetheless, looking forward to today's presentation. So my presentation can be summed up in one meme right here, which is where we're going. I think you all know this in terms of the direction that CCO is heading, but we'll dive in. So I wanted just to first talk a little bit about kind of the fact that CCO has made this major investment in innovation, not just my title, but in fact, real commitment to really changing the way that we do business for our candidates. A lot is changing in the world. You all experience that, customers, e-commerce, all that good stuff. And we really want to put ourselves in a position to better be prepared for handling that type of person. So this is just a little bit, and many of you have been here since the beginning, just to kind of show, this is what I call our innovation history. It's a pretty short history for the first 25 years of CCO's existence. We launched our written exams in 96, paper only. We launched our practical exams in 99, paper only. And then our one innovation was in 2007, some of you might remember, when we added computer-based testing. That was like, oh my gosh, CCO is the future. It's only been happening for 20 years in the testing industry. And then we just kind of sat around for a while. We eventually stopped making you guys order score sheets and mail them to you. We made little minor improvements here and there, but really what I would call our revolution really started in about 20 and 21 of CCO, when first we moved to the online application process, which all of you are very familiar with by now. We brought on Exam Studio for our exam management, our item bank management. Our committee members know all about that. We launched the My CCO portal in 22 when candidates could actually interact with their data. And then this year, my goodness, we have launched 3 new ways of doing testing: online proctoring, event online testing, and our latest test center testing. And very soon, as those of you that attended a little while ago will know, we're going to be moving our practical exams to a paperless solution as well. So really excited to see these developments. It keeps me employed, which I appreciate, and just thrilled with what we're going to be bringing to the marketplace and working with the industry to really try to accomplish. Okay, so I think it's really important for us to think through what CCO is trying to do, right? The purpose of CCO at the end of the day, and who our ultimate customer is. And we have many customers at CCO, but the candidates matter, right? The candidate experience matters, and so that's something that we as an organization are putting more emphasis on. So you'll hear us talk in that sort of tone a little bit more, and that's really something that's changing. So as we talk with other certification organizations and just see where the market's going, and all of you experience this. Every one of you has a mobile phone. Every one of you has ordered DoorDash or ordered an Uber or booked your flight on your phone. It is changing. The world is certainly changing, and that next generation of operator or rigger or signal or whoever you are is setting, that expectation is being set about what their experience is going to be, regardless of what it is they're doing, right? Whether they're getting certified or buying lunch for themselves. So some things that we see, and I think you all see, is one is this move towards what we call contactless experience, right? That younger generation, they don't really want to talk to people. They want to be able to text, maybe email, find it online, book it themselves. That is the expectation that the Ubers and Facebooks and all those guys of the world are setting for this next generation. Next is mobile first. Again, I see this happen with all of you now. most people, a lot of people, are interacting with us and in the world at large through their mobile devices. So you're seeing a lot of our technology move to more of a mobile-first design. By that I mean, it's vertical. You can navigate it on an iPhone, on a smartphone, versus on the traditional computer. Not our testing yet, although that has been thought about before. We're still taking exams on computers. But the overall experience is certainly moving to more mobile first. Third, and I like this phrase a lot, you hear this a lot in the CX world or UX world, meet your customers, but meet our candidates where they are. People don't want to necessarily travel to places and wait for times and windows. They want it now. That is an expectation that's being met. So online proctoring really speaks to that. We want to give our candidates as much flexibility as we can so that they have those opportunities to test when it's convenient for them. Of course, immediate gratification, right? Everybody wants it now. That's the expectation. You don't wait for the newspaper to come. You look online and you get that information. And then, this is more of a marketing item, but sort of lower brand loyalty, right? There's a lot, in the past, people would kind of stick with products, and even if it wasn't the best experience, they would kind of write it out. That's really changed a lot. People are so many options out there. You can really jump around, and we believe that there's less brand loyalty, and as time goes on, that will occur. And so what that means is we as an organization need to stay competitive and make sure that we're giving people a reason to stay, or maybe better said, not giving them a reason to leave by making the experience as smooth as possible. And at the end of the day, we believe a simple, unified process will encourage people to come into the industry, right? If certification is like this big ivory tower thing and I don't know how to get into it, some people aren't even going to want to have a conversation about entering the market or entering the industry. So let's make it easier for them by making at least what we can control at CCO is the testing process. Let's make that simpler so that at least we can encourage people to get started on that journey. So it's probably more than these four, but these are the four kind of key pillars that I think of when I think about the candidate experience. So the first one, maybe candidates don't worry about that much, but we do, which is security. A lot of the changes we have made really do focus on exam security and the integrity of our tests. And in addition to that, quality, right? The quality, and I couldn't think of a word that summarized both quality and consistency, so I put them both up there. But that's obviously paramount to what CCO does. And these items kind of appear in our tagline anyway. But the last two are super important from a candidate experience perspective, which is flexibility and speed. People want it now, and they want to be able to kind of do it however they want. So these are kind of the four things that we focus on my team in particular. We try to drive all of our decisions towards these four ultimate pillars of improving the testing experience. So you've heard us talk a lot about the different modalities, and I think the real takeaway for today, as you think about where written testing is going for CCO, is really this idea of a unified candidate experience. From the application process, to the scheduling process, to the delivery process, to the result process, right, to getting your results. We want our candidates, regardless of how they're testing, where they're testing. I mean, sure, obviously a test center versus testing from home, there are some nuances to that. But if you think about the paper pencil experience compared to a computer experience, they're very different experiences. And our candidates, the amount of time you have to wait for the results, the way you interact with the information, it's quite distinct. And so we really wanted to centralize it as much as we possibly could and get to a unified single experience regardless of how you're going to test. And that's all really driven by what we call the MyCCO. So again, you've heard us say that time and time again. The MyCCO is really the hub that our candidates are going to. We've optimized it for our candidates, but we're starting to expand it already, right? Those of you in this room who are testing personnel are now starting to use the MyCCO. And we have bigger and broader visions for what the MyCCO will be as a central point for any stakeholder, if I can use that term, who interacts with CCO in some way. Employers, training providers, other folks that are involved in the CCO process. And so we will continue to grow that MyCCO portal and expand it more and more and allow it to all interact with all the ways we deliver our written exams. Okay, so a little bit about the testing. OPT launched in January. So for those that don't know, online proctor testing, OPT as we call it, is call it your test at home model, right? Or remote proctor testing is another popular term that's used for OPT. This is the idea that an individual in a private room on their equipment is able to take an exam with a remote or online proctor watching them live. It's a live proctor through the webcam, watching them take the test. And that went live this year in January. And since then, through the end of last month, we've done just over 6,000 exams in online proctor testing. This year we've quadruple tracked our testing, and in that period of time, we've obviously made OPT available for all of our exams. And you can see a pretty nice trend up since we turned it on in January, with numbers continuing to increase. This is maybe my favorite slide, and it might be a little hard to see from the back, but I think this really, I talked about like meet your customers where they are and flexibility. So this chart, if I can explain it, shows when our candidates are booking their OPT appointments by day of the week, by hour of the day, 24 hours a day, on average by month. And what you'll notice is, so that's what, 7 times 24, I don't even know what that is. That's the different hours that they could book their appointments, right? Every single block is taken, with one exception, Saturday at 11 p.m. at night. Good to know our folks like to go out every once in a while. But other than that, every other block is taken. So on average, and this is just, we just started this year. On average, someone is taking a test every hour of every day of the week. 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, on Saturdays and Sundays. It's incredible. We didn't expect that. And so the fact that we offer this true 24/7, 365 option, our candidates are taking advantage of it. This is Pacific time. I should have said that at the beginning. This is based on Pacific time. So that's, that was a shock to us. Our busiest time is Friday morning at about 8 a.m. Eastern time, 5 Pacific. That's our busiest. And then you can kind of see how the heat map moves from there. But again, everything other than Saturday night at 11 p.m. or 8 p.m. Pacific time, someone is taking a CCO exam. Pretty amazing. Okay, so availability. This is another big topic that comes up a lot. So I grabbed the current, this is from the FCC, what they call the broadband map. Broadband is sort of defined as like, Ethernet internet, not dial-up internet, if you will. So this is the current map that the FCC offers. Blue means basically internet's available. Green means somewhat available, and white means not very well available. So, John, sorry, I don't know what's going on in Idaho. Not internet in this one little sliver. But other than that, just about anywhere in the country, you can get internet, broadband internet, which is more or less what you need for online proctor testing. So another way of saying that is we can do OPT testing almost anywhere. Now, understand there's some facilities where you can't do internet, and I get all that, but for the most part, testing is available just about anywhere. And this is changing every day, right? Elon Musk and Starlink are probably trying to make those greens and whites turn blue as soon as possible. So OPT is very much the most available because it's anytime, just about anywhere, as long as you've got the technology to do it. But we understand it's not for everybody either, right? Not everyone is necessarily in love with the idea of someone watching them through their computer. We did do some surveys with our initial OPT candidates. We've got about 100 responses so far. The survey remains open. I know Tara and the marketing team are continuing to work through it. And I'll be honest, in those early days, we did have some rough patches. Those first couple of months of OPT, there were some bugs to get ironed out. But despite that, we've got some great responses from our candidates. Overall, 71% of them are saying the experience is either excellent or good. 93% of them said the scheduling process was easy because you can literally schedule in with 15 minutes notice for the most part. And 81% rated the information on the space and equipment as excellent or good. So we're seeing that number go up, which means I think we're doing a better job of communicating, hey, be ready for OPT, right? This is what to expect the day of the exam. The things that they appreciated most, number one, they can test without missing work. Remember that chart, right? 2 in the morning, Saturday, Sunday. Now they can test on their time. I talked to somebody in the audience who's going to take a test later today in their hotel room here at this event. Number 2, immediate score reporting, right? The paper pencil world, these guys were waiting, a couple weeks potentially for their results. With CBT, we've had immediate results for a while, but now with OPT, they love getting those results right away. When they finish their exam, they get their results emailed to them, they can see them, and make decisions from that point on. The last one says testing, that should say scheduling. So the other thing that they appreciate is just the ability to schedule, the immediate scheduling capabilities of it. Now, the negative side, the major areas of frustration, those of you in this room won't be surprised by the first one, the load chart questions. That remains a pain point. We keep hearing that complaint. And by that, I mean the load chart questions, I think what they really mean is the load chart itself is only available on screen, it's not printed, and so navigating the question and the document and the calculator and the whiteboard, if they're using a digital one, we do allow them to use the physical whiteboard now, which has been a huge help. It's still a challenge. So I know our committees are actively pursuing some improvements to that to try to optimize the online delivery experience for OPT. And then last one was advice for future test takers of OPT. Number one, have a physical whiteboard. We did turn that on almost within like the first couple weeks of OPT. So definitely have a physical whiteboard. They are permitted, I'm talking about like 8.5 by 11 dry erase board with a marker. Another one, pre-download the Guardian browser. There's a specific secure browser you need. If you go through the checklist that we have online, it'll tell you to download in advance. Have that out of the way, so that way it's just there. You don't have to worry about it. And I think, and I've heard this a lot in the last couple hours, watch our tutorials, look at the other preparatory material, and try out the exam demo. We've got all of these great tools available to candidates. You know, you can only take a horse to water, right? So we've got this great stuff out there. We just really, really encourage you guys, get the word out, get them practicing, get them comfortable with it, using the equipment they're going to use for the real deal of the test. Test out the technology, get it all working, and we'd expect them to have a better experience. The improvement we see, like the big improvement we see is your experience the first time versus the second time. The second time is like 20 times better because you've already got it downloaded, you've kind of been through it before. So we want to make the first experience as good as the second experience, but that takes some preparation on behalf of our candidates and really encourage you guys to spread the word. So EOT so far, 1,800 exams, not as many as OPT. That didn't start until, March was ConExpo, but really in April is when we launched it. This is what our EOT test center network looks like today. This, of course, will grow as you guys create more EOT test centers. We will add more of them as time goes on. And this is the feedback we got from the EOT candidates. So similar, good responses on the overall experience. Application process was easy. Similar things that they appreciated. I will say the EOT candidates do really like that in-person proctor, right? That is an advantage. With the online proctoring, you're kind of your own technical support a little bit. I mean, the proctor will help you, but you're kind of on your own. With EOT, we require a physical proctor to be on site, and that is a nice benefit that the less technically savvy candidates appreciate. So that's something that they highlighted as well. And again, a major area of frustration is the low chart questions. Test center testing. Number 3, we just announced this a couple months ago now, and we just launched it a couple weeks ago, where after a lot of feedback from the industry, a lot of conversations we had, we ultimately felt that having a third option for our candidates to allow them to test through a traditional test center model where they actually drive to like a professional computer-based testing lab, if you will, would be available. So we've partnered with an organization that gives us access to 571 centers in the United States, distributed all over the U.S. And territories. They all have the CCTV security system that we require. So it's not the same as online proctoring where like there's a webcam, but there's cameras in the room, so we have that documentation. And in our first couple of weeks, we've done about 275 exams. So people are signing up for Test Center, definitely getting some of the bugs ironed out. We've certainly had some technical issues working through it, but working with our partners to do it. This is what that network looks like. These are the 571 sites. If you're curious, the PSI network that we previously had was about 350 sites. So this adds about another 200 sites to our availability. And then last up, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I hope those of you that are in the practical world attended a little bit earlier today. But our next big move, of course, not a huge change for the candidate, frankly, but for the proctor, is the practical online delivery or tablet-based testing, as we've been calling it, and moving to the digitization of the data collection process, getting away from paper score sheets and paper reports and paper processes to everything being online, delivered through a tablet. We've automated as much as we possibly could. The reports, the candidate check-in, the score sheet, and best of all, in my opinion, is the fact that it allows us to generate immediate scores to those candidates as well. This is what it looks like. Again, those that were here earlier today saw much more than this. But for those that are familiar with the score sheet, we go to an online process. We've really tried to simplify it for the proctors, really let them focus on what they need to be doing and not so much the paperwork. And again, we've got some really solid technology behind it to make the whole thing function as smoothly as possible. And that's all I have for today. we got some time for questions. Any questions? Rico.
Thank you. I have one question on the test center testing, and I'm not quite sure yet. Is there an availability before selecting the EOT, the OPT, or the TCT? Can you look at the locations of the test center testing centers?
Great question. Absolutely. So his question, I think everyone heard that. Can you see where the test centers are? Yes, you can. So even before you have an authorization, a candidate can log into their candidate dashboard. It can show you where that is, and they'll see two buttons right now at the top. One will say Find EOT Test Centers, and one will say Find TCT Test Centers. And there you can look it up. Now, you can't book without an authorization, obviously, but you can see what centers are available near you. You put a zip code in or what have you, and then it'll even show you some of the time availability as well. We will eventually be adding that for practical next year. Another question? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel. You've done such a good job at answering everybody's questions throughout the last few days. It's worked out real good. So thanks again to Joel. I'm going to take the opportunity now to share with you a quick update about the NCCCO Foundation and what we've been up to. We've begun several different initiatives, new initiatives in the past year that I think will be of interest to you and hopefully everyone in the crane industry. And so we've also got a lot more planned in 2024, so I will touch on that as well. I want to start with just again reiterating our vision for our organization. So we are, a separate 501c3 nonprofit organization that's supporting the, activities related to CCO. But we do have our own vision, what we're trying to work towards. The board set this out last fall, and it really reflects what our goal is for the industry as a whole, and helps the foundation to determine, what we want to do in order to help achieve that vision. The mission, which is set out in our articles, really covers a variety of different things. But as you'll see, when I talk about what our goals are as an organization, we are really focused on the key things of education, research, and workforce development. And then as I further talk about the projects that we've started to launch and the things we have planned for 2024, you'll better see kind of the things that we're going to do to help achieve the mission, in turn eventually get to our vision. So our goals are set out again by the board are related to workforce development, education, and research. I will read these out, even though I know you can read, just to reiterate, where we're trying to focus for our organization. So related to workforce development, we're trying to improve public awareness of careers in the load handling industry and help share the skills and qualifications needed. For education, we're looking at disseminating and promoting information that improves safety, skills development, and career advancement in the load handling industry. So crane industry in general, load handling, we're covering a lot of different things in that statement. Research, facilitate research and data collection regarding safety, innovation, and workforce development in this industry. So again, you'll see as I talk through some of the things that we've started to do already, what that really means in terms of the kind of resources and information that we'll be providing as a foundation to the entire industry. So research, again, I'll start by covering every single one of the things that we're doing related to research, education, workforce development. However, we've spent the bulk of our time this year in 2023 around research. So I want to, again, our limited time, share with you some of the things that we've actually started to collect from our research, and talk about the timelines for when we're going to get those reports back and be able to share those with you. So we have done some research related to safety, partnership with the National Safety Council on hazards, and then we've done some things related to the workforce perception, youth perception really, of this industry and their interest in or not of working in this industry with an organization called Tallow. And then we've actually recently started a huge national research effort with HUMRO that, again, I'll talk more about and give you a sense of what that looks like. Related to the National Safety Safety Council research that we were working on, our goal with that research is really to gain a deeper understanding of crane operations risks, experience utilizing technology, and then industry interest needs for safety content. So we looked out there, and I know there's been a bunch of other people who have done that as well, to say, oh, well, let's find all the safety-related information for this crane industry. And the answer is there's not a lot of specific to the crane industry information. Director Ketchum shared some of the BLS data. Again, when we look at that, there's some holes in that as well. So we said, let's go and try to find that information out ourselves, and go direct to the CCO certified operators out there to ask these questions. And so these are some of the things that we attempted to do in the national survey to really identify some of the top hazards, most frequent exposure, situational risks, contributing systematic factors, and then there was a relation to that to potential technology solutions. Again, this is a real high-level overview, and I'll kind of lead with the end, which is to say we did a webinar on this information back in September. So that's currently available on our website if you want more detailed information about what the survey came out with. And then in November, we will have a more of an executive summary related to that survey that'll go out that'll cover a lot of this information. But to say in general, we sent this out to over 100,000 active CCO certificates. We had a participation over 2,000 people, which statistically gives us a very high probability of being representative of with the responses of all operators out there. So what we did and what we came up with, what came out of this was essentially some of the key things in that upper right-hand quadrant. And I will kind of give a caveat here. We did this in the middle of the summer, so we are also looking at how we can best remedy that and determine whether or not that everything here. But heat stress is obviously a huge one that came up a lot with everybody. In fact, it was one of the things that came up with most operators, identifying both their likelihood of exposure and some of the things that they've seen on their actual job sites in terms of potential injuries. And this is not related to severity. Please note that. Obviously, there's some real severe things that could happen, but this is really related to the amount of exposure that they got and the injuries that they saw on their job site. So in that upper right-hand quadrant, really heat stress, fatigue, struck by falling objects, and lightning strikes were the things that came up most often. And in that kind of matrix, what that says is essentially those are the items that we would, that would potentially, and the National Safety Council would potentially recommend taking action on. There's other things here, obviously, that were mentioned through this survey, but those things might fall in because of less likelihood or less potential for leading to injuries, would fall in kind of different categories in terms of managing it or monitoring it. And again, there's a lot more detail that's provided in the webinar, but I wanted to give you a snapshot of what you could be finding out there right now and what to expect in our executive summary report. A couple of the other things that came out of that, just to let you know, some of the top hazardous situations, as you might expect, identified were loading and unloading, vehicle pedestrian interactions, and working at height. Other items that came out of the survey were in-person and hands-on safety training and learning is preferred. Responses pointed to healthy safety cultures at most job sites or employers. The vast majority of the respondents were willing to try new safety technologies, though there were some concerns related to the implementation and the collection of personal data, depending on what kind of technologies you were talking about. More information, as I said, and graphs and recommendations are going to be available through that webinar, and then also in the executive summary that's going to come out in November. And then a larger report comparing this industry to other industries is going to be developed and going to be available probably early in 2024. So related to the other things that we're doing, again, we worked with an organization called Tallow. It's essentially a company that has a network of about 1.7 million mostly youth, high school, college-aged kids that are potentially interested in finding a job, just in general. And so we partnered with them to do a survey of their their network, to really determine what they knew about the crane industry. Did they know anything at all? And if they did, what else did they want to know? Were they interested potentially in learning more about potential careers in the industry? And so what we found was a lot of really good information, maybe things that you might have thought of, but also things that we think will help us really determine what we can do to help encourage people to see this as a good potential career in the future. So again, we got a really good response rate to this, so we felt confident that the information we got back is pretty representative of at least, again, that youth population, high schoolers, college-age kids. But some of the things that came back, were that some of the respondents saw this as being a fun, challenging kind of career. Again, that's what they imagined. And an important, but also hard work, dangerous, and monotonous were some of the responses that came back for that. 23% of the respondents did not identified a career interest yet. And so there's an opportunity there. In fact, there's 44% that didn't identify any next step. So they didn't really know what they were going to do next. There's an opportunity there, meaning that not everybody's going to college. And we know that not everybody needs to go to college. Not everybody wants to do that as their next step. So there's really an opportunity here of a huge group that just doesn't know anything about this as a potential career. They see some other opportunities out there, and that's where, again, the foundation's looking to step in to say, what can we do to help promote this as a potential career, talk to them more about it. And what a lot of them noted was, can I learn more about what this career is about? What opportunities are in it? What are the benefits of it? Interested obviously in what the salary, the annual or the average hourly wage is. But that came after just understanding more about the industry in general. And I think that's where, again, we have not done enough to talk to them about this, to get at them earlier on to even see it as a potential opportunity for them. So we are going to continue to work with Tallow to try to communicate with those folks. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But this was also provided a larger explanation about all of this was provided in a webinar that we did back in July. So again, that's also available on our website that you can take advantage of and freely use and look to see if there's more information that you might be able to use as your organization to understand what opportunities might be there to appeal to young people. In terms of workforce research, we've also started a large endeavor with an organization called HUMRO. They do this with all kinds of industries for the last 50 years to try to really help them understand who's in the workforce, what do they look like. So they've already started by kicking off, back in August, they did 9 focus groups with crane operators or signal people or anybody basically that was potentially working in and around cranes that was certified by CCO. We put out a call and asked, would you like to participate? They've put together these focus groups, and we're collecting the data from them. So I'm sharing here with you a little bit of the, real preliminary stuff that we've gotten back so far. What we're doing is taking this basic information that we've gotten back and put it into a larger survey. So hopefully, if it didn't go to your spam email, if you are certified with CCO, you should have received an email that says, complete a survey related to your experience in the workforce. And it's a pretty extensive survey that's asking all kinds of questions related to your experiences. And again, our goal is to get more information about what does this industry look like so we can figure out what we can do with that information in order to encourage more people to be in it. So things like that were asked both the focus group and in the survey are, what aspects of the job do you like? What differentiates good versus excellent performance for people working in the crane industry? And some of the things that, again, that came back as top likes: interpersonal connections, career elements, meaningful, fulfilling work. But at the same time, dislikes came interpersonal connections, health, well-being, dislikes, and nature of the job. So obviously there's a lot more detail within interpersonal connections and what that means. But this is, again, just preliminary data that came back from the focus groups. And then we're going to expand on that and combine it with this national survey that we're doing, again, to over 100,000 CCO certified individuals that have now received this survey. And again, we'll collect that information. Humro is going to compile that into a big final report that's going to be available early next year. And that will be able to provide, again, a slew of information related to all of this information, but also additional things that aren't listed here that we're trying to get, things related to salary, to primary role, to gender, to what language they speak, all kinds of different questions that we'll be able to provide, and we're going to provide that to the industry so you can better understand, again, who's working for you, who potentially could work for you, and how to appeal to them better. And again, some of that stuff is where we're going to really look next year to see what can we build on, how can we build on that and understand it better. So some of the other things that we're working on that I want to touch on related to education. For those who are at the Con Expo, I hope you enjoyed it. We were involved along with SCNRA, in putting together the crane and lifting education track, which was really, from what I'm told, one of the most well attended. So congratulations, and also, one of the highest rated at Con Expo. So we're going to continue to work on that and work with SCNRA and AAM to continue to be involved in that and put on some other educational sessions in 2026. CTAG continues to operate. CTAG met earlier this year. They're going to continue to meet annually. Right now, we are receiving inquiries about most similar. We've received about 9 so far this year. But essentially have already been addressed by the current most similar directory that's available on our website. Some people just need some clarification about certain things. So there's not been any need for any further determinations right now by CTAG. So again, we're looking to continue that on, but right now CTAG is going to continue to meet about annually. Educational webinars, we've started these, like I mentioned, a couple different things that we've already done. I encourage you to look on our website to see what current webinars are and what future webinars are going to be. We have the annual Industry Forum, as you're here and you're aware of. And then OSHA Alliance, I was going to talk a lot about that, but Director Ketchum stole my thunder. So we are really looking forward to doing that. Again, a lot of the things that he mentioned already are what we're going to work on with them and to try to create more, working together with them to create some more resources and information around safety, some round tables, some things that are going to create hopefully more interaction between our industry and OSHA, help to learn more from them, but also help to educate them and their employees a little bit more about this industry. And for those folks that are going out and doing inspections don't necessarily don't know as much as you all do, and so hopefully we'll have a back and forth exchange with that kind of information. So please look forward to 2024. We'll have more on that. And then workforce development, just to mention, we've got a couple outreach programs. We're expanded our veterans outreach program so we can recognize more veterans coming through the Skill Bridge program. These are people transitioning right out of the military, trying to get certifications as a crane operator so they can get a job in this industry. Again, we're doing outreach with Tallow, trying to learn more from them, provide some more messaging from them, and supporting the Lift and Move project or program under the SCNRF Foundation, and continue to kind of see what we can do to help there. But that said, we're really looking for 2024 to be the big opportunity for our career outreach. So as I said, all this work that we're doing around research is going to help lead to some bigger, let's call it development, what we're going to do in the next year, which is related to career and industry awareness. We're going to be developing a website, information, resources, videos, other things that are going to be hopefully the resource to say, if you want to know more about how to get in this industry, what it's about, how much you can make, what the opportunities are, here's where you go. And so the foundation will be building that in the next 6 months So hopefully mid next year, there will be a resource that will be available to everybody to look at, to share, to get things off, to utilize for their organizations. We'll be looking at scholarships and try to develop those. Safety information resources, again, through the OSHA Alliance, as well as some other things that we're going to start building based on the research that we've done with the NSC and what we need to target in terms of trying to help improve the safety of this industry, and then follow on research projects. What are the things that we need to do in order to get, in order to build on the research? Do we need to dig in deeper in certain areas or other areas? And so that's the kind of stuff that we'll be working on. So in conclusion, again, this is a brief overview of the things that we've been tackling, but I do want to encourage everyone to take advantage of the resources that we're creating, and we're going to be creating more. So participate, please. Look at our webinars that we've already recorded that are on our website. Please look in the future for emails that you'll probably get, other things on LinkedIn that you'll be able to see in terms of webinars that are free to participate in, again, around all these subject areas. The industry safety research that I mentioned that's going to be coming out there, the workforce development information and research that's going to be coming out there soon. Again, all free, available, you to use, you to figure out if this is the things that you need. We want you to have that information in your hands. And then, hopefully take advantage, use that for your organizations, and then share that with other people. And we want to be a resource for this industry, and hopefully the information that we're putting together will help do that. So that's all I have. Are there any questions for me or about the organization, about the foundation, what we're doing? All right, seeing none, I'm going to pass it over to our final speaker, Mr. Tom Sicklesteel. So our final presentation this afternoon is one that I know many of you look forward to. So we're now going to hear an update about the ASME B30 standards activities from the new Vice Chair of the ASME B30 Committee, Tom Sicklesteel. Tom is the CEO of the National Commission for the Certification Crane Operator, CCO, as all of you I'm sure are aware. But he is also now the Vice Chair of the ASME B30 Committee, a voting member of ASME B30.29, and an alternate on B30.5. He serves on the boards of 8 other companies and associations. Tom has also served as a subject matter expert for the NCCCO Foundation's Crane Type Advisory Committee. Prior to joining CCO, Tom served as a general manager for Levitt Cranes USA, branch manager for Barnhart Crane and Rigging, as well as president of Sicklesteel Cranes. Under his leadership, SCI won multiple national regional safety awards. He was a stakeholder for the Washington State Crane Administrative Code Committee and Select Committee. Tom has served as a subject matter expert for Washington Crane Certifier Exam, Construction Hoist Exam, as well as the NCCCO Lift Director Exam and Crane Type Advisory Group. So we're excited to have Tom here today to share with us the latest about ASME. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Well, I'm all between you and dinner, so we'll try to make this this quick. But it's really important stuff that's going on. I'm just going to make one comment on the alliance. For me, I'm real excited about having an alliance with OSHA and the foundation. For me, it really gets down to some of the stuff that OSHA discovers during accidents. How do we get that communicated out? I'll give you a great example. When a shackle fails and it's maybe an imported shackle and there's a concern about what does that look like, how does that get out to our industry? And so we'll be able to take OSHA information like that and get it out to the industry a lot quicker. So real excited about that. Anyway, let me jump into ASME. Here's the magical list. It's also the eye exam for those of you in the back about all the different ASME B30 standards. OSHA updates once every generation, and ASME updates once every 3 to 5 years, depending on the standards. You can see all the years on there. The reason I listed the years is so you know what the most current standard is, because that's important. Standards update when they do update, it's material updates, meaning that there's important items that they've changed. And you can see there's a couple back in 2019, one in 2015, which I'll talk about, but all the rest are pretty current in the 20s and that sort of stuff. So I wanted to specifically not go through all of them, but highlight some of the ones here in white, which makes it even harder to see for those in the back. But those are the ones that we'll be talking about a little bit today, and walking through some of the changes that have occurred and that sort of thing. So just to explain a little bit about the ASME process, the committee, the subcommittee in and of itself, the different chapters, go through and they get language approved. And it goes through the committee level, then it goes through the main committee level. That stuff gets held until the publication gets formed. And so when I speak about changes that are coming, I know that they've already passed the subcommittee level, they've passed the main committee level, and they're awaiting publication. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So here's the ones that have been published in 2021, and you'll see here, B30.5 and all the others. It's interesting that those just happened in 2021. I will say in many training manuals, I've seen 2007 in some, and 2018 in a lot. B30.5 updates pretty frequently. Now, I will tell you also that as we get further away from OSHA's deadline in 2018, all the changes that happened then, ASME will continue to push the bar a little bit further each time. And as they do that, it's really important to stay up to speed. Whenever things get published, it's effective a year later. And it can get enforced that way as an industry safety standard. So you can see in 2022, there was a couple. In 2023, this is the news for today. The articulating cranes got finally released in 2023. It was held up for 4 years due to appeals that were going on in the standard, and that has finally been released. We have pending ones for 2023, and then you can see for 2024. And the reason I put these in here is because if we're writing questions and we're starting to write exams, we get a 1 year notice, right, on the early stuff before it becomes into effect. But it's important to know when your standard, especially if you're on an exam writing committee, to know when your standard is up for renewal. So in 2024, we have tower cranes, mobile cranes, slings, hooks, below the hook, material placement systems, which are concrete pump trucks, as well as ropes. I think that might cover almost every single committee on what's going to go on. So even though we have a lot of stuff that we've been doing on item writing, we're going to have this whole new slew of things that get published in 2024. Unfortunately, almost all of those ones that get published in 2024 are at the end of 2024, not the beginning. So this will be 2025's work that we'll be looking forward to. So just to go through B30.2, it's the overhead. And I always, thanks for that, Fred. So, it's important to point this one out. So the things that have happened so far when they updated, they included the definitions, the P30.1, that's all the lift planning, the operator responsibility, signal person, and all that sort of stuff. They have added the responsibilities for signal person and that sort of thing, but they have not added qualifications yet. So that's still to come. So the next scheduled update on this one is 2027. So this is one of those that's a little bit outside of the normal cycle. It's already printed, ready to go. So those are what we should be writing the questions to, is the 2022 version. ASME B30.3 is scheduled to come out next year. And here's all the things that are pending. So a lot of people have asked me, why did ASME all of a sudden remove all the rope stuff from all the different standards? The reason they did that is because they wanted to standardize that. So they created B30.30 and moved all the rope stuff over to B30.30, which was great until we realized that there's some stuff that's unique to each standard. So then some of the standards have put back in some of the rope stuff, but anything that's standardized is now under B30.30. So if you are on a committee and you have anything to do with wire rope, B30.30 has to be referenced. It's not even a question anymore, because all your core stuff is sitting in B30.30 now. You won't find it in any like B30.5 or other standards as it go forward. You can see here in B30.3, they also went over operator responsibilities. They've added those. Electrical hazards, so they aligned some of the hazards and stuff along with OSHA. Multiple line operation is new. How to do a multiple line pick, not just a multiple crane pick, but a multiple line pick, and that sort of stuff. So those are all the items that are coming up in 2024 that have been released at this point. B30.5. B30.5 is the redheaded stepchild of ASME. It's where everything kind of starts and everything gets debated and everything gets argued and then finally gets adopted, and then the other groups kind of take it and move from there. So you can see here the pending stuff is already things like the B30.30 reference and that sort of thing. Lift planning as well. But you can also see that signal person responsibilities and lift director qualifications. So this is now coming out in the ASME standard. I will also say that under the ASME B30.5, they will state in there, it's already been passed, that the qualification for a crane operator can only go for 5 years, and then they have to requalify. That's a new statement in there. So even for general industry, for things like, hey, you know, we're in the manufacturing, we don't need to worry about that. We can have it happen once. That's not the case anymore. I will tell you that one of the things that's been assigned to 3 different subcommittees, sub-chairmen, is that we've been assigned the three different sections. So you have manufacturing, inspection, and operation. Those are the 3 sections, right? So those have all been assigned to review OSHA and find out where we're compliant with OSHA, where we're not compliant with OSHA, and we want to bring ASME up to at least OSHA's level and then go from there. And so that's really the focus of B30.5. That will not make it into the 2024 standard, but that is what is just starting now and will be in the 2027 standard. So you can expect to see, we went through like section 2 already, all the inspections, and there's a lot of difference between ASME and between OSHA, and that now will kind of start to look a lot more similar as we go forward. Once that happens, you can kind of see that starting to roll through other committees and other places. So look at OSHA for your consistency, but long term, we all need to move eventually to ASME, because if we're continuing to quote OSHA on questions and things, again, that only upgrades once every generation. ASME will be continuing to move forward every 3 to 5 years. B30.20, so this is below the hook lifting devices. They aligned B30.2 and B30.20, aligning all this stuff. They created a non-mandatory appendix related to markings, and they've dealt with load testing of lifters and all that stuff. Again, this is something that comes out in 2024, below the hook lifting devices. They added some scope in this. They added some diagrams of one of them was we have like containers that you lift, right? And they said a container that's being lifted is a below the hook lifting device. And so that some of you have like sites where they lift like concrete, like you have these little square pads things that they dump extra concrete in at the end, and you lift that out. Those are now containers of things. So my argument was, does that mean that when we lift the porta potty, that's a container? Does it have to be rated and engineered and all that sort of stuff? They determined that wasn't the case, but anything else that was a load needed to have that. So those are things to keep in mind. B30.22, articulating boom cranes. So this is the one that had been held for a long time. Since 2019, it was supposed to be released, and it's taken 4 years to do that, again, through the appeal process. if you go back to 2019, we were adding signal person responsibilities and we were adding power line standards, right? So now in the new articulating crane, you'll see that there's the 20-foot rule. It's no longer the 10-foot rule. It's a 20-foot rule if you don't know the power. You'll see a lot of things that align with OSHA related to power lines. But that's really where we were at in 2019, and they haven't really got to develop anything beyond that. But there are those big updates that we'll need. 2028 is when this one gets updated again. There'll be a lot of changes that they'll be adding just to get caught up with everyone else. But power lines is going to be the main one. Okay, B30.30. So this is the ropes. This is where everything kind of gets thrown in. And you can see that from this list, they've added definitions. So like diameter, right? I thought diameter used to be an easy definition. But with wire rope, we have diameter measured, diameter nominal, diameter reference. We have a few different things. And so there's also, it's not going to be the standard stuff anymore. There used to be a diameter reduction table. That table is changing in B30.30. And so it's different. It's not, we used to have, you know, like if you doubled over something, it was half. And now that's not the case. So there are a lot of areas where the D2D table changes are happening, and it's different in wire versus synthetic. And so there's a lot of adjustments there. So these are when this has come out in 2019, in 2024, all of these changes will come through. So this will be a standard that you'll want to get and that you want to make sure is up to date. Again, every single crane with wire rope will have to also comply with B30.30. So it's really important to keep that information up to date. With that, I tried to get through it pretty quick. That was the pressure wash version of the ASME standard. But is there any questions related to ASME that I can help answer at this point? Oh, yeah, got one in the back.
So talking about the alignment of the B30.30 ropes, is that going to be in alignment with the OSHA Subpart CC as far as the criteria for removal of wire rope?
No, it's going to be more stringent. Not for the criteria for removal, but some of the D2D ratios and some of the other things are more stringent.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's where the changes will be.
Thank you very much, Tom. Please, round of applause for Tom. So as we come to an end, I just wanted to remind everybody before we leave that you will get an evaluation form in the email probably within the next day. Please take the time to fill it out. I'd appreciate your feedback so we can continue to improve the industry forum. And also myself, Joel, Tom, everybody else will be around for the next day or two. So if you've got questions that you think of later, please follow up with us. And I just want to thank everybody again for coming. Thanks to all our speakers, and for you attending. We look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you very much.